I'll call this meeting to order. We're here to discuss the 2019 tax foreclosure report with Susan Copeland, and I'll hand it over to you, Susan.
Okay. Did I tell you I'm getting too old for this yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, yes, I am.
Okay.
Years are fun. There's a lot of concerns that I have that I try to alert the county that this may cause a problem,
Okay.
or I don't agree with how it's being assessed, or that it may be the wrong people. All right. The first one, of course, is the Lois Ruth Bailey property. She's been deceased for some time now. There is a probate started in the county, and I believe, Nancy Elliott has been appointed the personal representative. So assessment could be in the estate of Ruth in care of Nancy A. Elliott. Some of the heirs appear to have deeded off to other heirs, and I listed those numbers, so whatever interest they would have had in the property. Okay, the next tax parcel number is the Rice, Gary Rice, Justin Rice, and Ryder Giroux. Is that how you pronounce his name? Well,
I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is. Do you, Jerry?
It's true.
well, it's okay. We've got his name down there.
Yeah, it's kind of like share. Everybody knows about Ryder.
Right, okay. Justin L. Rice, of course, is deceased. There is no probate that I found in Shoshone County. In 2013, Carrie Ann Smith was appointed a guardian under case number. The obit did not list any heirs by name, and so no address was ever located for Carrie Ann Smith or Gary L. Rice. So they have the interest there with Ryder. Okay, diversified machine technology in a tax parcel in Osborne. This is a mineral interest only located on property which is currently assessed to Kevin Neubauer and Cheryl. If tax deeded, it's just my suggestion that the parcel be offered to Neubauer under the Small Tract Act, thereby combining them both together and then getting rid of this tax parcel number altogether. Robert Field, Merrill Field, and Dolores Field. Okay, a death certificate was filed for Merrill. There was a community property agreement, which then would transfer any of his interest to Dolores, and now Dolores, I think, has a probate started.
She's passed as well.
Yeah, she's passed as well. Yeah, so that one, there is a probate there, and the PR is Vicky Field on that one. So vesting is actually Robert D. Field, subject to the interest of his spouse, Jessica, and Vicky Field, personal representative of the estate of Dolores Field.
Now, when we do these notices for tax deed, are they noticed
I noticed everybody.
You notice everybody, okay.
So I noted, you can't notice a dead person.
Yeah, so you got to notice their personal representative.
And if there isn't one, then we just have to, that's when you have to publish in the paper.
Yeah.
Try to jerk these people out somehow.
Okay.
Bring them out. Tax parcel numbers D1500, 310, and 311, which is Silver Valley Lofts. This is actually the YMCA building. Why there's two tax parcel numbers? One's for lot 10, one's for lot 11. I don't know why it's not combined, but you need to sell it as one, because otherwise you're going to be splitting the building. So, if there's an idea to somehow combine these two as one parcel number and eliminate one, that'll stop that situation. But
okay, who does that? Who would do that?
Well, that's the assessor's office. Okay. Generally, what they require is the taxes have to be paid in full, and it has to be requested.
No, it's the owners that have to combine them.
Okay.
Okay.
It's just that if it is tax deeded, I just suggest that you don't sell half of it to Jerry and then half of it to me, because
Right.
we would fight
More so than usual.
more so than usual. Yeah. There's other problems, you know, where, yeah, a lot of times up on the hill in past years, the house is set on 2 lots and they only deeded 1.
Yeah.
And, you know, the people really do become a little irate. Jerry knows.
Yes.
So we try to avoid that. If I catch it, sometimes I don't catch them. Tax parcel F 100, which is CES 202523 LLC. There's a manufactured home on this property. It is not part of the property. So, it would not be included in any sale. So if people
Because
think that,
It's got a
because
title, right?
yeah, it's just the land. The mobile home is not, has not been attached to the land, surrendered its title, so it's actual, somebody can pull it up and pull it off. So, you know, in this case, the taxes are paid on that one, so they're not in delinquent status.
Mm.
Now, on similar situation, but this is a case where the mobile home is on the property, but there have been resolutions where the delinquent taxes haven't been paid on the real property, but it hasn't been paid on the mobile home either. And what the county does at that point, they assess the mobile home taxes to the real property. So technically, the taxes on the mobile home are just as delinquent as the real property. However, the procedure has to go through a different way to solve the personal property versus real property, and there's your codes. Okay? But they remain separate. This next one, I don't have a clue why you did this, Jerry. The mineral interest on, it's several mining claims, and it's mineral interest, minerals were severed. But for some reason, 3 tax parcel numbers were created upon that severance. There is 1. There is 2, and then the bulk of the minerals is on the 3rd one, which I couldn't pull a picture of. Supposedly because it's in different tax code areas. It wasn't before, but now it is, which I don't understand. There's no descriptions for those. So my suggestion here, all 3 tax parcel numbers are delinquent, that they all be conveyed or sold as a package and not try to segregate them unless somehow you can come up and come up with some legal description. How I did it on your reports, I think I excluded as per tax parcel or as tax code such and such and tax code such and such and tax code such and such, which those tax code are not defined.
Yes, Aaron.
They change.
Yes, they do.
Therefore, they are not defined, you know, for real property purposes, because they have, that's what they do. They do this, they do that, they do this sometimes. In other words, tax code 10, for instance, and I don't know if there's a tax code 10, but tax code 10, for instance, may have been the city of Wallace when it didn't include that portion of Elizabeth, not Elizabeth Park, but of, what am I trying to say? Placer Creek, because it was just this part of the town. And then, of course, when the boundaries of the cities change, and then they kind of group these things in, or when the school district changes, or when the South Fork Sewer District changes, it changes these codes.
But each code has its legal description.
Yes, it does, but it changes. So you can't.
Like any legal description now.
Yes, I understand, Jerry, but it changes because you can't go with the code. Okay, when the code was originated, you can do okay. You can define it if you come up with a meets and bounds description that it's this part that's in that code, that's good. But if you say anything that's in that code and then the code changes, It's not the same legal as it was when you deeded it. Because it either could be smaller or it could be bigger.
The piece that lies in each
Right,
taxpayer.
right,
Could be.
could be. And that's why it's not a good definer to narrow it down. For instance, if I deed you north of the road and the county goes in and changes the road and they pushed it further north. So did you lose property or did you gain property? I gained some because you get to go north. They just pushed the
Well,
road.
In the individual legal description.
Yeah.
Right.
See, and
And
that's what makes it, and that's what you're gonna deal with if it's just best, okay, they reserve the rights of these mining claims. Just keep the mining claims all together. You can call it anything you want. You can, it's
Nothing
just that.
allows us to do that, so.
Well, I don't know.
I-
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I really think that something, I don't know what your budget is, Jerry. And I don't know how many tax parcel numbers you handle. But if you divide your tax parcel numbers into your budget, I honestly think it's going to be more than 6 cents or 10 cents. And that's what these tax parcel numbers, that's what your tax revenue is off these tax parcel
Right.
numbers. And it just, to me, it's not physically sent.
But-
With our computers nowadays, I don't know why the legal description can't say, okay, a special code in there and split on the tax parcel number itself on the sheet instead of, well, let's do another tax parcel number.
I don't know why either, Sue. That's a
Well,
good
I
question.
think you need to fix it.
That's a good question for your legislature, though.
Well, now I think it's a good question for you to bring it up to, that this is costing the county money. Anyway,
And-
now let's get back to another one that I pulled my hair out of. And this is, it's also a mining claim. It's been carried as a 1.1 acre parcel up in Mullen. It's on the Enterprise claim. It actually is not a 1.1 acre parcel. It is a 1/12 interest of a 13.2 acre parcel. At one time, Hecla owned 11/12 interest of the claim. CUC held the other 1/12 interest, and so together they owned the whole, both surface and minerals. Hecla deeded their 11/12 interest into LP, reserving the minerals. So that's when you had, now LP had 11/12 interest of the surface, and Hecla had 11/12 interest of the minerals, and CUC had 1/12 interest of the surface and the minerals. The 1 acre cannot be defined because it's 1/12 interest of the whole. LP then acquired the 1/12 interest from CUC, or East Shoshone actually, because CUC went into East Shoshone. So therefore, LP had 100% of the surface plus 1/12 interest of the minerals. Hecla has 11/12 interest of the minerals. LP then deeds East Shoshone a 1.3 acre parcel and did not reserve the minerals. So at that point, LP has 10 acres approximately, or no, 11, 12, let's say 12 acres of the surface. Hecla still has 11/12 interest of the minerals. And now East Shoshone has the 1.3 acres plus the 1/12 interest of the minerals under that 1.3 acres, and the 1/12 interest of the minerals under the other one for LP. LP then deeded to Cherry Tree, but then Cherry Tree did deed to Stinson. Somehow the taxes stayed in Cherry Tree. So technically it's Stinson Lumber that has the 1/12 interest in the acreage that they own. East Shoshone has the 1/12 interest in the minerals of the parcel that they own. Okay, so that's where it stands at the present time. My suggestion is if it's tax deeded, that it be offered to Hecla Mining Company, thereby giving them all of the minerals under it, and then you get rid of this tax parcel number altogether. If it's redeemed, this is my suggestion on this one, is that why can't you use category 9 or your 9 and just attribute a little bit here on the surface parcel number? Would that work?
Different owners.
No, it wouldn't be different owners if it's redeemed. So you, on Stimson, you would have a 9 for X dollars, which would amount to something like $5. Because I don't know, at 13.2, what is it? Assessment, is that usually $5 an acre?
Yeah.
Okay, so at $5 an acre, you're looking at $66, but they only own 1/12, so that means that they would be about $5.50. And then $5.50, but East Shoshone would also have 1/10 of that. So it'd be $5 for Simpson and $1 for, because you round up, don't you? Do you round up? Otherwise, it'd be 55 cents for East Shoshone
Ask the tax collector if they round
as an assess.
assessment.
I mean, that's the assessment, would be 55 cents. Because it'd be 1/12 of 66. Well, actually, it'd be 1/20th because it's, they only have 1/10 of 1/12. Did you follow that? Yeah, I can tell. And we did all of this for a whopping 6 cents of revenue a year. That's why I think it's just, okay. I get off my soapbox now. The Anita Reeves property, this is a piece up Canyon Avenue. It's a lot that's behind the lot that's actually on the road. There is no viable way to get there. Can't drive there. It's up on the hill. The road used to be there. I mean, the road's platted. But you can't get it here and you can't get it there. So, you know, that's just something that people need to understand, that
No access.
there's no access. Technically there is, but there's no road.
Right.
Okay,
Like you said, it's platted.
it's platted.
It's never been.
It
developed.
wasn't, I think probably back in 1909, it was. Because we used to call it a trail. You know, before, that's when the railroads were just down below. But, I think it was an old wagon trail, but since then, I mean, the cliffs has knocked it off. You'd have to go up Canyon Avenue and then up the hill and then through the cliff and anyway, it's not viable access. So that needs to either be pointed out or whatever. Okay, tax parcel numbers, for the Vincent Ferry and Carroll. There's,
Miss Cherry Tree timber there, one above it.
oh, Cherry Tree. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, this is, yeah, there's several of these that are Cherry Tree. And Cherry Tree they did reserve the minerals. I don't think they meant to,
No, neither do I.
you know, but they did. This is all in the Kingston area. There's, this one, Tracy, and the others that are down below, the 49 numbers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 5 of them that are Cherry Tree. They're all in the same area. They reserved the minerals. The minerals were reserved. However, they haven't paid any taxes on them since they reserved them. And that's why they're up for tax sale. The surface property is owned by Stimson Lumber. I think on all of the parcels, individual parcels. The problem here is they didn't reserve a right to get the minerals from the surface. And I'm not aware of any underground mining operations that are close by. So if somebody were to deed or to acquire the mineral rights, they probably couldn't get to them. You know,
So
they
how would we
would
do that?
have to get to them from underground. And, you know, if it was set next door to a Bunker Hill property and their tunnels are going that way, you know, that's feasible. This area was mostly for placer, even though these are not placer mining claims. They have never been, they were homestead. So, which tells me that probably wasn't, they didn't find any minerals there in the first place.
So is there anything in the Idaho code that, you know, like the Idaho code talks about, we have odd shaped lots
Yes,
that we can sell that odd shaped lot to the adjoining property. Is there anything in the code regarding mining claims, mineral rights with the property, if they go to the property?
no, nothing I'm aware of.
Okay,
So I think it does fall under that, you know, what's the most logical thing to do it?
yeah,
And the most logical thing to do is either combine it back to the surface if you can. If it's a mining claim, you know, that's entirely different. Mining
yeah.
companies did feed off and reserve the mineral rights. And that's why I would suggest instead of combining that interest on the enterprise, which is the 112 interest, is that interest be, you know, conveyed to, or, you know, offered to Hecla. Because that way they would combine all of the minerals and then the surface would be the surface. So no, there's nothing that I am aware of. You know, most of our problems that we have here is the fact that, you know, I think could be addressed by, Shoshone County is just such an odd county because of the mineralization.
Mhm.
I think Boise, Ada County may have some because they were quite heavy in the gold, you know, back in the 1860s. That they may have similar situations, but I don't know. Okay, all right, we're down to the ferries. Tracy,
Yeah, yes.
I tried to jump over it, I really did. Okay, now here's the ferries where there's actually sitting, the properties are together. But one is under the subdivision and one is adjoining property, because I think it was one time part of the Russian water power right away, maybe? Jerry, can you remember?
No, I can't remember. No.
But anyway, one's a meets and bounds description and one's a lot and block, and they're together. And then they vacated the street, you know, that was between, or they would do it. If they're kept together, everything's fine and good. If they're sold as separate pieces, then you're gonna have one that's gonna have a lack of access, unless it's common ownership.
Okay.
So that's a group that, these two tax parcels go together. Tax parcel, this is in 348 and 3, which would put us in Gulch area. And just at Big Creek, right? Yeah. Three's above 10, right? Okay. Three's above 10. So this is probably at the mouth of Big Creek. Let's just say it's at the mouth of Big Creek. There's no viable access to it. It's somewhere between the river and the freeway, I think is where it points out to. Yeah. So it's a little piece that's right there, and of course you can't get off the freeway to get to it, and then have to swim the creek to get to it. So it's not very viable. So that's it. The one that's Shoshone Property Group, this is part of Lot 24, which is a sliver of land between sections 10 and 15. That's also up Big Creek. So most of it has been severed off into different parcels. So the only thing remaining that I can tell after pulling this one out and this one out and this one out lies beneath Big Creek Road. So if that one's tax deeded, I suggest that you just absorb it into the road. Because it's fee simple. It's a fee simple piece. But it looks like it's entirely under Big Creek. Okay. Next is Okay, Dennis, and this is another code split area where he's paid taxes on one parcel and not on the second part. The parcel that is being tax deeded is the front parcel, so if it is tax deeded, then the back parcel is going to have a lack of access. Now, I suppose theoretically what the county could do is in that deed, put an exception to it, subject to an easement over and across to the adjoining parcel, or, or something to that effect. I haven't seen it done, but theoretically, you could if it's sold to a different parcel. Because one is in tax deed and the other one isn't.
Okay, so the one in front, he's not in tax deed, so he decided not to pay his tax. deed.
Well, no, the one in back actually, because the road comes this way and
Okay.
that's where the road hits the one, that's the piece that's in tax foreclosure.
Mhm.
And then the other part, see, it's only one legal. This is a piece that's in one legal, but you got two tax pieces because of a tax code. One of those tax breaks things. But it's only one legal. So I did cut it off by acreage because you were telling me it was something like 6 acres. So I cut off the 600 feet. I think I did. Try to put it on that section line,
Mhm.
a quarter line.
So we couldn't foreclose on the whole property, because it's one legal.
Taxes are paid on part of it. I know. See, that's the problem with the tax codes. That's why that needs to be addressed with your legislature, as Jerry is probably.
And it'd take you 10 years to
Yeah.
educate your legislation.
Well, it's just that, think about it. I'm just guessing that it costs probably close to $50 a parcel just to manage it. If you take all of the assessor's budget and then divide your tax parcel numbers into that, you can get a figure on, doesn't matter if it's an expensive parcel or a little sliver under Big Creek Road. Theoretically, it costs the same to maintain that parcel number. Yeah, through everything. And I just think for 6 cents, it's not worth it, but okay. But I understand it has to be done.
And no one will agree with you more. so.
I know, I understand it has to be done, but there has to be a different way. And that's why, by putting it, a code, with today's computers, to me, it's just a simple code that can be added. Okay, well,
Mhm.
this one legal, well, 30% of it should be in this code. So 30% is split that way. Just code it that way. But it's your business. My money, but it's your business. Okay, okay, we're going back to the cherry tree ones. Same situation. The minerals were severed. These are the tax parcel numbers. Cherry tree didn't want it then. I don't think they want it now. Access is just, if somebody wants to say, okay, I own mineral rights, that's fine. I'm not gonna say it doesn't have any value, especially
Some
with
of those
inflation.
are like boilerplate
Yeah.
deeds that they.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oil and gas in Oklahoma, they always retain
Mhm.
rights
Right.
to those.
Yeah.
And so when it comes out to us, then they say, well, we're going to retain the mineral,
Mhm. Yeah.
oil, gas rights to it. And they don't even know they're doing it. Even when this happens, we give them a heads up that says, do you know you retain your mineral rights? Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's okay.
It went through the title company and we've signed and we've got our money, who cares? That's so.
So.
No, I try to tell
I
Keep
know
the
that-
headache on you.
I noticed that on the railroad property that we're purchasing, that they retain the rights of the minerals.
And that's real common with the railroads to do that,
Yeah.
so.
them. On the deed,
It was on the note, the sale agreement.
okay, on the sale agreement, yeah. Yeah, they can. I mean, by all means, they can.
And I
quite
wondered
possible
about that. I was
they-
like, well, why would they?
It's just a common.
It's just a common, kind of a
Yeah.
common practice to them, but the thing is they may not own them.
And that's what they say, if they have any, they're retaining.
Yeah, if they have any, they'll retain it, and that's makes another. Okay, because I've had people come up and says, well, we want to know who owns the mineral. Well, unfortunately, title companies don't track the mineral rights.
Yeah, that would be,
Well, they have a document that they call a mineral guarantee, and I think it's kind of funny because it doesn't guarantee any minerals. What it does, it goes from the time of supposedly from patent to see if minerals have been severed from the deeds. So they just list all the deeds that mention minerals. And when it comes down to it costs about $150 an hour to prepare, which is what they pay. The insurance is whatever they paid, and there's no guarantee that anything's right. So, but sometimes people want it, and like I say, I'm getting too old for this. All right, this next one is really an interesting one, and one of you girls help me out with this one.
And it's on its way to being fixed.
Okay.
Because IFG came in and paid the 2019 through the 22 taxes, prepaid the 23, knowing that the house burned on that property and there's a couple outbuildings, small ones. They're going to remove them and let Jerry know as soon as that happens. And Connie said
Then
the
get rid of
parcel
this,
would be
yeah.
eliminated.
Make sure they let us know.
Yeah, and he knew that.
Yeah,
When we
because
went
When
over
is
there.
that?
The
Yeah,
buildings only.
Building.
It's just buildings only.
it was buildings only. It was listed on Golden something. The Eagle area Golden King is where it has been carried. But if you pull up the aerial and you actually look at it, the buildings were actually on the AJ Pritchard, which at one time was kind of in that same group. So this was a situation where houses were built. Apparently, it was an off-record lease, so there's never been a legal description for this acre that I could find, and that's why when I found the case, I had who did I send it there? Can't remember. Send up one of your girls.
One of his girls?
No, I found one of your girls. You think I'd bother Jerry with legwork? Anyway, she sent me the case file and it was about 145 pages.
What's it?
All right, situation was, there was an off-record lease. They leased it. They built the house. They built the outbuildings. They did everything. They paid $2,500 a year for the lease, according to the case. And supposedly they said that they had a deal with Coeur d'Alene Placer that if Coeur d'Alene Placer was ever to sell, that they had the right of first refusal for the property. So that's where it was at. Coeur d'Alene Placer decided to sell to IFG and notified the Nicholsons that their lease was up and to vacate the property. And then the lawsuit started because, no, this is my house and you're not going to make me move. Type of situation, which is probably why it burned. I don't know if that's the case, but so what happens in that case? It went for several years. It came down to the Nicholsons did lose the case. The property then actually became part of the real property, which would be IFG, and and that was just kind of the explanation there. So, at the point in 2017, they were divested of their interest. Apparently, they were keeping the taxes up on it, even through the court case. And then William Nicholson died in 2018, which is probably why they stopped paying the taxes.
so quick question on that. Who, since they just had the house, so who would get the insurance money from the proceeds from the fire?
Probably Nicholson's.
But they just own the house. They didn't own the land, right?
The land's still there. The house isn't.
Much like an extra home that's not
Okay.
You know, the house, even though the house was attached, and this is where the Idaho statute gets really, if something is attached to the land, it is real property.
Okay.
And this was attached to the land, but it was severed by deed or other reasons where this party had it and this party had it. So in that case, it was personal property sitting on real property. It's the same way with trees. I love trees, which the county doesn't do that right either. But let's say I own 160 acres of forest and I sell Tracy here my 160 acres, but I reserve the trees. The trees are mine, okay? As long as the trees are on the property and growing, they're real property. Or they're real property. Then they don't become personal property until I cut them. Now here's the fallacy of the statute. I come in, you own the property. I come in, I cut the trees. Now supposedly that's when I pay my taxes, you know, either the deferred timber taxes or something else. Jerry, tell them what happens if I don't pay my taxes on the trees that are on Tracy's property.
Then you catch Tracy,
Uh-huh.
Wow.
the only place you can.
I know. I'm not saying, I mean, that's what the statutes say.
And I think if someone ever fought that in court,
Oh,
We-
well, probably, yeah, but that's neither here nor there, but that's well, nobody thinks of the what ifs. Yeah, I should have paid the taxes. The lumber company probably sent me a bill saying, hey, you need to pay these.
So if
taxes.
I ended up paying the taxes, would I get ownership?
No, they're my trees.
There's no way to make you accountable, only her.
I wish he
Came
can
up
sue me
Yeah,
for
that's
having to
about-
pay taxes that I should have paid, and then it goes into court, and then it does. Of course, there's always remedies, but, or attempted remedies, but is it gonna be
Cost
worth
you
it?
money,
Well, that's
probably more
it.
money than taxes.
So anyway, no, I honestly, I try to just point out, you know, this is what happened, this is where it should go. But like I say, some of this, when you have a 1/12 interest, no, you know, and I can see, you know, it took me a while to figure that out, because I first asked Nancy, it says, give me the legal description for this 1.1 acres of ground that you're assessing, is being assessed. Well, I don't know, it's been that way for years. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the last 20 years. Well, I don't know. And then I asked for the, you know, how she split this new era. Well, their tax, oh,
Be the
well,
first
can you
time
give me the
you
legal?
can
Well, no, I
explain.
can't. Well, then how did you
This
split
is
it?
done once a year.
Yes.
Or, okay.
So I send a list to Susan around the 1st of March. And she starts investigating all of it, investigating.
Okay.
And then she gets me everything that I need back. So I can notify all the interested parties, which I do by certified mail. And then she does a write-up of anything that she has found that could be needing attention.
Okay.
And that's how this comes about. And then they'll be tax deeded on, I think it's July 26th this year. And then we sell it next June.
Okay.
If it's not redeemed.
If they're not redeemed.
So that's kind of the process.
So these aren't coming up for this time, it's next year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the interpretation of the time frame, and I'll pull it out again. First of all, anything that is tax deeded and sold at a tax auction is not insurable by a title company unless it goes through a quiet title action. And the reason being is because many of them have been overturned in the past, not just Shoshone County, but that they don't touch them unless they get that extra little bump. And it's simply, sometimes it's the interpretation of the rules. One of those interpretations, how the title company looks at it, is that there is 1 year that a person can come and redeem the property if it's been tax deeded. 1 year, they have 1 year to do that. Others have interpreted, or 1 year to do that, or until such time as the property is sold. others have interpreted that I can tax deed it today and sell it tomorrow. And some counties have done it within a few months of being tax deeded.
And that's
And-
the way we used to.
Yeah, and so, it's always better to wait at least that 1 year,
I agree.
at least a full year from the time it's tax deeded until it is put up for auction. And if it's not sold there, that even if the person who lost it, if it's still there and not sold, theoretically, they can come in and
Okay.
redeem it, even after that 1 year.
Hmm.
Because I think that's where that other term came in, or until sold.
Gotcha. Didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think as
So
why,
I-
but others have interpreted, I can deed it, I can tax deed it today and sell it to you tomorrow.
The attorneys love that.
Yeah.
Good money.
Yeah, and then, so title companies just kind of stay out of that. Well, just go ahead. We'll sit
And-
back and wait till the courts say, and then we'll wait 42 days longer,
And
just in
then-
case.
Then in the old days, then it would take, people would come in and question that, then it was Carrie's office time, our time. And you have upset people,
Mhm.
and then people buying it also. They're left in limbo for an entire year where but they're intelligent before they do anything like that.
Well, yeah.
In the old days, they had that year to redeem,
Mhm.
but if I went in and they'd have to pay me for any improvements I did to the property in that year.
No, we're talking from the time it was tax deeded the year, not from the
Right.
time it was sold.
Right, but we used to sell it right after.
You used to sell it and then they would, yeah. And, and some states still do that. I think Wyoming does that. Where they can deed it but I think I think it's either 2 to 5 years
Mhm.
before they actually give a deed, a clear deed to the property. And yeah, that's what they have to do. But then it just becomes a big mess. It just,
No, I think this way is been a lot.
well,
Yeah.
as Jerry knows, I'm very trying. No, it's getting harder and harder for me to do it. My hands don't want to work. My legs don't want to work. I'm not so sure my brain's working.
So what do we do at this point?
So at this point, if you have any questions for me that I can try to answer for you, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
The next process is once, Carrie usually gets her, returns back, then there's the publication in the newspaper.
Which
And
we publish them all.
we publish them all anymore, which is a good idea. That way nobody can say, well, you didn't tell me.
Or someone else signed for me
Yeah,
on my certified letter.
yeah, and I didn't get it. And I know, it's just best to do it
We
that
just do
way.
both.
I mean, I do the best I can, but I am human. And I just try to pass on, nope, I can't figure this one out. Nope, I can't figure this one out.
In the meantime, a lot of Carrie's done her due diligence,
Mhm.
so.
Well, that's just it. I mean, we did everything we possibly could think of to do. And we have more resources than they did 50 years ago.
Yeah,
In other words, I can do a internet search for a Justin Rice, for instance, or I can look for an obit, and, instead of going down locally. But, pull up stuff on the, ancestry type to try to find who may be an heir. And we've done that. And we've traced heirs in South Dakota one time, didn't we? So it's not that we just said, well, they're not in town.
No, and now when we get them back, we go on LexisNexis and search their names and
Mhm.
send it out again if there is a new address.
Their new address, which I don't have that access. So I just pull, okay, this is the last address I have. Yes, but no, yeah. Anyway, guys, like I say, I'm getting too tired.
We really appreciate it. We appreciate your help.
I just wanna, what do the other counties do? I'm not gonna live forever. Did you see
Other
this one?
channel, yes.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
Other counties don't go to that detail.
No, and I don't know what they do. I don't know. I haven't been serious about asking.
Well, maybe you should. Anyway, looking at what type of products are available. Title companies do have what they call litigation guarantees, which does give you all the information on, the report and also gives you the names that need to be served out. And those are, usually $220 a piece to do that. They will not handle anything with mining claims or mining interest. So they'll just say, no, I'm not gonna do it. So the other, so that's your other.
I don't blame
I don't either. I don't either. Did I tell you the first claim jumping happened? Here in Shoshone County? I never told you that
you.
story.
Might have, might
Uh,
not.
the first one? Claim jumping. You all know that Wyatt Herb was here, right? No, she's got the, you know, Wyatt Herb was here.
Do you know who Wyatt Earp is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wyatt Earp and his brothers James and Warren came up in 1884. Of course, the gold was discovered in 1883. It's when the rush was there. They got there in January of 1884. They did locate a few locations, decided it would be easier to mine the gold out of the pockets of the miners instead of digging it out of the ground. So they opened up the White Elephant Saloon. So now around Eagle is now roughly anywhere from 5,000 to 8,000 people, if you can imagine that. And Kootenai County decided that they would jump the claim, and they claimed the entire gold field in Kootenai County, which just goes to tell you that anytime money is involved, the tax man is not far behind. So while, of course, Shoshone County disagreed with this, and so to prove their point, Kootenai County hired a deputy sheriff. So they hired Wyatt Earp to be the deputy sheriff. And of course, Shoshone County had their own deputy sheriff, which was W.H. Hunt. So they're in the town and they had this little log cabin that they used for the jail in their office, and they went and dispensed the justice as they saw fit in the camps. While the legislature, the territorial legislature, played the game of whose line is it anyway? So eventually Kootenai County was pushed back towards Cataldo, supposedly on the west side of Coeur d'Alene River. That line is still in flux. You got that last,
Yep.
There's still a disagreement as really where that line is, but it's definitely not an eagle. We know it. So that's what I tell everybody, that Kootenai County was the first one that did some claim jumping in Shoshone County.
I did not hear, haven't heard that.
Me neither.
Well, that's just my opinion. Whatever that's worth. But that's what they did. I mean, hey, this is in Kootenai County. I want this go. I want the tax dollars.
That's for all you do, Susan.
Yes, thank you. And thank you guys for coming in and helping out. And
Well, like I say, we try. It's just that really, somebody should try to get to get some of these things reformed, because I can't see costing $50+ to get a tax revenue of 6 cents or 10 cents or 20 cents. It just, and with the computers nowadays and the ability to do that, you can't tell me that there's no way to code that under one parcel.
It'd take
Yeah.
a quarter a day to
Uh,
try to code for him.
Well, I know. Yeah, and it's just, who's gonna bite the bullet?
Yeah.
It's what it comes down to. I mean, I think everybody tries to do the best job they can. I honestly feel
Yeah.
that way. I honestly feel that way.
And they lean towards the easiest.
It's just that What, can you give me a legal, well, no, that's the way they've always done it. Or I'll just come with one actual legal description and it's cut in 2 and 3 pieces. You know, like. And like I say, you know, the code areas themselves fluctuate. So what might be a code 10 today may not be a code 10.
If you
Next year.
Let them do code areas by section soon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, which is another little thing. Okay, if Wallace, no, you can't have part of this, you gotta take it all and none of it, you
Yeah.
know, or, you know, that type of a thing. It would make it easier for everybody to understand, okay, well, that's in such
But
and
then
such.
a lot of times they write those code areas that will eliminate an area that's against their annexation or formation.
South Fork Sewer District is a
Yeah.
good example of that. I mean, originally, it was supposed to be the towns of Wallace and Kellogg and Smelterville and Pinehurst. And Osprey, you know, and Osprey. And then, of course, each city has to, and Smelterville said, well, I ain't gonna be part of that, I'll do my own. So that's why you got Smelterville Sewer District.
And I think part of Bunker Hill didn't want to be.
It's quite possible because they were putting all their sewage into the central impoundment area.
Yeah.
Which was being handled quite properly because everything was being killed. You know, that's what I keep telling everybody, you know, the bad side and the good side. Bad thing for economy is when they kept, or not economy, but environment was when they put all the tailings in the river and it turned out to be a gray sludge. It wasn't very good. The good thing was, well, people were putting their sewage into the creek. We didn't have any cholera or diphtheria because it killed that too.
There's. We publish that, there's a couple parcel numbers.
I may have typed them wrong.
You got
I found them.
two.
Yeah.
There's 2 of
Will
them.
you just adjourn the meeting?
I found, I think it's the second one on the first page.
Yeah.
You wanna,
And then on the, what do you want to do?
do we wanna adjourn the meeting and then we'll shut the
You
camera
can.
down?
Yeah.
I'll adjourn the meeting?
So